When a game studio is thinking about a new project, they usually have a couple options. They can either keep doing the same thing they have been doing by making a new entry in the same franchise, or they can pivot to make a new thing, possibly in a different genre. But there is a third option, a very rare one, to stick with one franchise while changing up the genre inside it. And I think that is kind of a shame, as there is something quite charming when you play something that both feels familiar on the outside but completely new when it comes to the gameplay. That does require the developers to have the confidence in their vision and the skills to make the transition from one genre to another feel smooth. And nobody exemplifies that better than the Swedish studio formerly known as Image Form and their SteamWorld franchise, which I love. Image Form was founded in 1997 in Gothenburg, Sweden by Brian Sigurdsson. The company started as a multimedia/web development company, slowly moving into the video game space by first making web games, then educational games and mobile games as a work-for-hire studio, and finally breaking into the console space in July of 2010 with SteamWorld Tower Defense on the Nintendo DSi. The SteamWorld games take place in a post-apocalyptic Earth where humans have more or less wiped out themselves and the world is now inhabited by Steam bots. In Tower Defense, the bots are protecting a gold reserve, trying to push the surviving humans, called Shiners, back underground. The game, as the name probably tells you, is a simple but challenging tower defense game where you place different turrets alongside paths where the humans are walking towards your base. I unfortunately have never been able to play the game as it was a Nintendo DSi exclusive and has never gotten ports to other platforms. Image Form definitely took a risk moving from being a work-for-hire studio and the conventionally successful mobile platforms by self-publishing a game on the Nintendo DSi online store, but it ended up being successful gambit by getting favorable reviews and the DS storefront being less crowded, so people found the game and Image Form ended up recouping the development cost. During this time, a Swedish publishing firm and the official distributor of Nintendo products in the Nordics, Bergsala Holding, bought 50% of Image Form. With this newfound partnership, Image Form continued forward, and in 2013 they released the next game in the franchise, SteamWorld Dig. The game first launched as a Nintendo 3DS exclusive, but got ports to other platforms in the following years. With SteamWorld Dig, it has been unnamed amount of time since the tower defense game, and Steam bots have started to gain individuality, creating settlements and society of their own. We play as Rusty, a Steambot cowboy who arrives at the Wild West-inspired town of Tumbleton and starts to head down the town's mine, discovering its and the world's secrets. The game's gameplay loop is 2D platforming down a mining shaft, mining blocks to create paths, finding treasure, selling that treasure to get better equipment to mine even deeper. And the game borrows a lot from metroidvanias in its core design, but still has a strong sense of uniqueness in its mining mechanics, where you need to be strategic of where you go so you don't miss out on treasure, or worse, cause a cave-in killing you. The gameplay loop is super satisfying and the game's charming art style makes it a joy to play. Most people seem to agree, and SteamWorld Dig became a big hit for Image Form, and they were faced with a choice. Do they go straight for a sequel and risk being only known as the Dig Studio, or do they do something different? They ended up choosing the latter, as they had a great sci-fi adventure idea brewing and continued the franchise in 2015 with SteamWorld Heist. Once again launching first on the 3DS, with other platforms following later. SteamWorld Heist takes place way after the events of Dig, and the Steambots have now taken to space. We play as Piper and her gang of space pirates, but you know, the good type of pirates, as they battle against enemy factions. The gameplay consists of missions where you board enemy spaceships and battle against rival gangs. The combat is similar to turn-based tactics games like XCOM for example, but instead of a grid, the fights are fought in 2D arenas. What makes SteamWorld Heist battles so interesting is the ability to ricochet bullets from walls and ceiling to hit enemies that are not in your line of sight, adding very cool layers of complexity to the game. The art style and the character design make a seamless transition from the Wild West inspired style to the new sci-fi setting, and I love the old school radio play inspired cutscenes.
A brutal gang of thugs called Scrappers are spreading across our turf in the outskirts, stealing everything in sight. They have even been known to kidnap the locals.
SteamWorld Heist ended up being another critical hit for Image Form, and with a different kind of game now under their belt, the time was right for a sequel to SteamWorld Dig. As the first game was developed with heavily constrained budget, things needed to be cut, but now they had the opportunity to fill their original ambitions with SteamWorld Dig 2 that came out in September 2017 on Switch, PC and PlayStation, with 3DS and Xbox coming a bit later in 2018. SteamWorld Dig takes place soon after the events of the first game and kinda fills the narrative gap between it and Heist. We play as Dorothy, a young and spunky steambot who Rusty met in the first game, and now Dorothy is searching for him. The gameplay is really similar to the first game, but just improved in many ways, making for a more pleasant experience. The game is also quite a bit larger, has more variety in regions, and has more in-depth upgrade mechanics with fun perk system as well. There is also more emphasis on the story. The game was well received by critics and fans alike, and Image Form kept their streak going. During this time, the company also went through first steps of its major shift, as Image Form came together with the previously mentioned publishing company Bergsala Holding and another Gothenburg-based indie developer Zoink to found Thunderful as their new parent company and create a publishing arm, Thunderful Publishing, to handle publishing of both internal projects as well as third-party games. Image Form still remained a separate entity for now, but just under the Thunderful umbrella. During the development of SteamWorld Dig 2, team members were able to pitch their new ideas, and one of those pitches was a fantasy RPG that eventually turned into the next game in the series, SteamWorld Quest: The Hand of Gilgamesh, coming out in 2019, first on the Nintendo Switch and later on PC, with rest of the consoles unfortunately never getting ports. The game is framed as a fairy tale one of the Heist characters tells, so its part of the canon is currently unknown, but the developers have been teasing about it for a while now. The game stars the knight Armili and the mage Copernica, who set off on an epic journey to save their world from evil, finding new companions to join the party along the way. The game is a card battler RPG, with each character having their own deck of cards, focusing on certain role in the party of dealing physical damage, casting spells, healing and buffing allies, and so on. The fights are turn-based, and each turn you can play a set amount of cards, with more powerful cards requiring energy to use. The game really feels like a JRPG with card elements, and the developers even have mentioned the classic Python Kaitos as an inspiration for it. The gameplay is a lot of fun, and there is surprising amount of depth to the deck building. What is most impressive is how incredibly well the SteamWorld art style translates to this new fantasy setting. After a successful release of SteamWorld Quest, the next step of the corporate shift happened in 2019 when Thunderful transformed into Thunderful Group, and in 2020 both Image Form and Zoink, alongside with a third game studio, Guiding Rules Games, were merged into a singular company, Thunderful Development, with 4 different studios in Sweden. Later that same year, Thunderful bought out another Swedish developer, Station Interactive, and those employees were transferred to Thunderful Development as well. Image Form as a name was gone, but SteamWorld still remained one of their most valued properties, so it was going nowhere. In 2021, Thunderful announced a new game in the franchise, SteamWorld Headhunter, that was going to bring the series to 3D and was a co-op action game based on the description. Since its original teaser trailer, the game unfortunately went totally radio silent, and its development is currently on hold based on Thunderful's financial reports. But this new shift in corporate structure also introduced an opportunity for the franchise, as other developers could take a crack at it, while the original Gothenburg studio could do something else. And that actually ended up happening, as the developers from the old Station Interactive were going to be developing the next entry in the franchise, with the original founder of Immediate Form, Brian Segerson, still overseeing the development to make sure it remained faithful to the franchise. And with this effort, SteamWorld Build was released in 2023 on every modern platform. SteamWorld Build takes place during the same time as Dig 2 and follows a group of Steambot settlers founding a new town. The gameplay is split into two. On top side, the game works like any other traditional city builder, where you improve and grow your town with buildings and infrastructure, attracting more and more people that then help you upgrade your town even more. But below the city, the game transforms into a sort of a dungeon crawling experience as you manage a mining operation and different processes to make sure the town has necessary resources while fighting against monsters and finding old artifacts. I'm personally not the biggest fan of city builders, but the game kept a good flow with the mining mechanics, and completing the campaign didn't take too long. SteamWorld Build was received well by fans, but its sales underperformed, with the company mentioning that the drastic change in genre might have not appealed to their target audience. But even with new developers jumping on the SteamWorld train, it hasn't meant that the original ex-Immediate Form devs in Gothenburg were not cooking up their own game, which is turning out to be a sequel to SteamWorld Heist. The new game keeps its turn-based battles, but also seems to be introducing some cool-looking naval gameplay as well, and I'm looking forward to see how the game turns out. SteamWorld Heist is coming out in just a couple weeks on August 8th. And that is where we are today. Heist 2 is just around the corner, but other than that, we do not know what the future will bring. In 2022, Thunderful mentioned that there were 4 SteamWorld games in development, with Build and Heist 2 being 2 of them, the now shelved Headhunter being the 3rd, and the last one supposedly being a puzzle game aimed at the mobile market, but we'll have to see if that ever comes out. I hope that the series has a bright future in front of them, but more importantly, I do not want them to burn it out with too many games. This series has been a source of joy for me for such a long time, and I cannot express how much I appreciate the effort that goes into keeping a series like this going. I love the guts of, hey, we have this cool series with a brilliant visual brand, let's keep at it while constantly innovating on the gameplay side. It is just such a great approach to developing a long-running series. If you for some reason haven't yet experienced this franchise, I highly recommend giving it a try. Like I have mentioned throughout the video, there is sort of a continuous storyline going on, but honestly it does not matter that much, so whichever game or genre seems appealing to you, go play it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this look into the SteamWorld series that I've been enjoying for the past decade now. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you and have a great day.